Thanks. So I'm Brian Alvey, CEO of CrowdFusion. CrowdFusion is a content management system, a CMS. The easiest way to describe it is it's the opposite of Drupal. So you've all heard of Drupal. You've never heard of any of Drupal's customers, and Drupal doesn't scale. So we're the opposite of that. We scale like crazy, handle crazy traffic. You've probably never heard of CrowdFusion, right? Pretty much, besides a couple of people, right? Thanks, Barry. But you've heard of all of our customers. And so Anderson Cooper, his new site runs on our stuff. Extra TV, the Black Women's magazine Essence runs on us. Their music festival, MySpace, was a customer until they got sold. There's a Best Buy funded site that's actually mobile first called Tekka. There's The Daily, which is News Corp's iPad news app, their daily news app. I believe many of you are familiar with. Oh, look at that. Crud, that is my slide, sorry. So, and then there's TMZ. You've all heard of TMZ, right? Leading gossip site. They have a TV show, right? None of you watch, but you've heard of it, right? Okay, good, me too. I know people who watch it. So those are a bunch of our customers, and you've heard of all of them. So we do all of that in the cloud, actually. CrowdFusion is cloud native, so every one of those brands actually runs 100% in Amazon's cloud. I'll talk about that in a couple minutes. So what is a seat at the table? Usually when I give a talk, I'm kind of obsessed with innovation, innovator's dilemma, innovation itself. And whether it's a big public talk like this or a private one at a media company more usually, where I'm talking about things, I'll talk about innovation as a startup CEO. I'm obsessed with innovation. We don't have Adobe's like $18 billion market cap and 9,000 employees. So nimbleness is kind of what we bring to our big customers who are maybe not as nimble as they used to be, maybe. And so that's kind of our thing. And I never want to lose that, right, that sort of edge. So because I want to be nimble, I'm obsessed with innovation. And usually when I talk about innovation, I'll do it from a perspective of specific innovations, all right? So our team, innovations over there are the agile development, or they're virtual. We have a 33-person company. They are in 11 time zones on 5 countries. The most people we have in any one city is 6 in New York, 4 in LA, and the rest are no 2 people in the same city. Very, very spread out. Like I said, 11 time zones. On the product side, the CMS side, there are a lot of things that we've embraced. There are innovations like the cloud, social, mobile, and by mobile I mean both smartphones and tablets. Those I'll focus on a little bit more today, but I'm going to do it from a customer perspective. So when I say a seat at the table, the name of the talk there, I'm talking about how my obsession for innovation actually makes us pick strategic projects, strategic customers, so that they will get us a seat at the table at the future of publishing. So we want to be on the cutting edge of our industry. We want to be invited to the future of publishing and have a seat at the table at the future of publishing. And that's why on most of the projects that we're looking at, they kind of come down to CrowdFusion and Adobe. And the reason for that is most open source platforms or in-house platforms or low-scale CMS products don't have a seat at the table at the future of publishing. They're not working on sort of cutting-edge stuff. And that's by design that we are. That's something we baked into our DNA. And so we're doing, there's a bunch of different kinds of innovation. We're doing stuff in commerce. We're doing stuff with connected television apps. But the ones that I want to focus on today are mobile and the cloud. And like I said, by mobile, I mean smartphones and tablets, so we'll cover those. When we dreamed up CrowdFusion more than 4 years ago, a couple big things were not on our roadmap, mobile and the cloud. The 2 things that customers love the most about us today are mobile and the cloud. So it's some pretty important stuff for us. So here's the cloud. We'll do the cloud first. TMZ is my favorite example of somebody who does multi-channel right. On the web, they do the perfect gossip site, right? They're the leading sort of blog. They do it as a blog for breaking news. On television, though, it's actually kind of a reality show about the making of a gossip site that has a start, middle, and an end that has videos and all sorts of news. They don't just one day later tell you what happened on the website, right? That would be stupid. So they do multi-channel very well. They also just launched on the iPad a very, very good iPad-specific experience that's right for the channel that their audience is connecting with them on. But the most important thing that our work with TMZ has done for CrowdFusion in terms of innovation is the cloud itself. So when they came to us, they had a very specific technical challenge, right? They're a top 100 website. They have crazy amounts of traffic, and the traffic kind of goes up and down. And their down is actually pretty up for most people. So when they have a 5 million page view day, they go home like really depressed. We failed. I think they get drunk and they drink themselves to sleep. Like that was a disaster. A lot of people would be happy to have 5 million page views in a month, right? So when they have a 40 or 50 million page day, they're very happy. That was a great day. So they have these crazy swings. And when we started talking to them, this is 2009, we started talking to them about putting them onto CrowdFusion. And we said, well, we can put you in a traditional data center. We'd rent 50 servers, and we'd run that. But most days, you're only using 10. So 28 days out of the month, we're completely wasting your money, 80% of your money. But 2 days out of the month, you need 100 servers, and you have outages, and you fire your CMS company, us. Well, that would suck. So that's kind of lose-lose, right? When they're high traffic days, we fail. When they're low traffic days, we waste money. Well, that sucks. So it seemed like everybody today in the room is going, the cloud, right? Just put them in the cloud, elasticity. And that's cool in 2012. But in summer of 2011, summer of 2009, nobody was putting big public-facing brands in the cloud. So we had to convince Warner Brothers to not only trust CrowdFusion, who nobody's still heard of, but also to trust Amazon's public cloud, and with the latency and the outages and all that stuff. So what we ended up doing was building a lot of cloud features into CrowdFusion. Because the first big customer we had was in the cloud, we actually baked a lot of that cloud stuff into what we do. There's a long list of benefits that you get from going to the cloud. I mean, we cut their hosting bills in half versus what they were estimating they were going to spend. We get new features to market faster. We're failure tolerant because even though like our code is bulletproof, bug-free, flawless, somebody else on that server does something stupid and the server reboots. So you have 10 web servers running, 3 are gone now, and you have to be able to be failure tolerant. So it's one of those what doesn't kill you makes you stronger kinds of things. We're much, much, much better off for having gotten into the cloud really early. Also, because we got into it very early, we became kind of cloud experts for these big media companies. So not only were we on stage at South by Southwest with them, or Cloud Expo and Amazon or RightScale conferences, things like that, but as their IT teams would finally get around to moving the smaller brands into the cloud, they would get us on the phone calls and pick our brains about how the cloud actually works, but we did it with their biggest brands first. So, so here's what I mean very specifically about CrowdFusion being cloud native. Most CMSs, you go in and you edit your articles. So you think about TMZ. They go in, they put up blog posts, they manage their photos, their videos, they manage members and comments and things like that. But they also manage infrastructure in their CMS, directly in the CMS. So they will actually know when they're breaking news. Whitney Houston death. God, it's all death. Michael Jackson death. Davy Jones. Was the last Beastie Boys, right? So all this stuff, it's like all death. And but okay, we got about 5 minutes now. We're going to verify the phone numbers, take a picture of the bathtub, call the mom. Get all these facts straight. And in that time, instead of publishing the story and waiting for the crazy amounts of traffic, I mean, we see these graphs that go from a 10 to a 70, 700%, climb in traffic in just minutes. It just spikes. It's this crazy wall. And if you wait for that to auto-scale, you're kind of screwed. I mean, auto-scaling is cute. But we let them go into the CMS, and in another tab, they just say add new servers. If they have 10 running, they click, 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 click. Now they have 20 machines running. Now they can kind of, handle that horde of traffic that's about to come in. And if the traffic doesn't come in because it was somebody nobody cared about, or is a divorce, or not a death, then, then it's okay. They wasted, I think, 45 cents, right? It was an insurance policy. It's pretty sick. So that's thanks to TMZ for making us, cloud native and baking the cloud in there. And I want to talk about mobile as well. And to me, mobile and a cloud actually have a very specific sort of symbiotic relationship. And what I mean by that is the cloud actually makes all this mobile stuff, smartphones and tablets, possible. So Kara mentioned that the iPhone is kind of it's more powerful than her first computer. They say it's more powerful than the rocket that went to the moon, stuff like that, right? But unlike a PC, the iPhone, your smartphone, is not where all your stuff is stored. It's all actually stored in the cloud. So until the cloud was trustworthy and people had faith, it was really all about faith, in the cloud and these services were working, you couldn't have that sort of thing. And the way I like to look at it is a little odd maybe, but a long time ago, all computing was centralized. You had a giant mainframe and a bunch of little thin terminals and stuff, and they're all connected by big fat wires. Then with the desktop PC revolution, all that processing power and storage and all of that RAM, got decentralized. You had it all on your desktop. You had a little desktop tower machine. And now it's all centralized again in the cloud, and mobile is your thin client. So if you think about it, the cloud and smartphones and all that is actually just mainframes done right. And that's the way I like to think about it. So, and I also don't believe, like she said, the iPhone is kind of a desktop replacement. I mean, the iPad is absolutely a desktop replacement. The iPhone isn't. What the iPhone is to me, again, here's my take on it, is the iPhone is a credit card that can make phone calls. The iPad is a credit card, a bigger credit card that can't make phone calls. And that to me that sums up mobile for me. So what does a seat at the table mean for mobile, right? This innovation here. CrowdFusion powers the daily. I mentioned that before. Kara also mentioned mobile first. You know, some people are starting to go mobile first. Well, the daily was mobile first. It was iPad only for like the first year of its life. It's been in existence for 14, 15 months. It's doing really well, actually. And they're very mobile first. And they're not just on the iPad anymore. So I mentioned that they started on that for, 8, 9 months, 12 months. They were on the iPad. They also launched on Facebook with Zuckerberg on stage at F8 last fall. And so they have a native app for Facebook, which does Open Graph and all that stuff. They have an Android tablet that's on Samsung Galaxy Tab for Verizon's VCast subscription service. It's a mouthful, but they're on that as well. And then just last week, they launched an iPhone version of the Daily with a separate subscription service and all that. So we've now integrated CrowdFusion with 3 leading mobile payment platforms that I can talk about. There's more coming. And the number of web paywall services that we've integrated with in the last 4 years is 0. And that's because it's a seat at the table at the future of publishing, not the recent past. So people talk about Apple versus Android, and everything I've seen on Android, whether it's our customers or not, so I'll try to be vague and general about this, is a complete dismal disaster, a failure. It just doesn't matter. People don't get 1% of the adoption on Android that they do on a popular thing on iPhones and iPads. On all the Apple stuff. But I still do believe there is a 2-horse race in mobile, and those 2 horses are the iPhone and the iPad. So everybody can take comfort in that. If you're at Apple, everybody else is screwed. There's a recent study, actually, that talks about tablet sales, right? And it says only 2/3 of tablet sales are iPads, right? So there's a whole healthy third of people who, BlackBerry, all these tablets that are out there, Android tablets. And that's cute. But then they looked at the opposite, which is from websites. How much tablet traffic is coming from all the different devices? And more than 96% of the traffic to the sites was from iPads. So that means Samsung Galaxy Tab, Amazon Kindle Fire, they're fighting over maybe being 1 or 2% total of the market share of usage in this pie, which means they're doomed. They're all kind of screwed. It's pretty unreal. So the future is iPads. Like I said, iPhones are not going to replace desktops, but iPads will, for all but power authoring type things. If you have a 1,000-cell spreadsheet on a 30-inch monitor, you're going to use a desktop for that. If you're going to edit video or lay out a magazine, you're probably going to use a desktop for that. You're not going to make Toy Story 4 using iPads, right? But you're going to watch it on an iPad. You're going to consume videos and all the content. You'll even do light editing, spreadsheets and stuff like that on iPads. There's a whole iPad world coming up. The last thing I get asked about is HTML5 versus native apps, right? And so 2 years ago, this summer, I think August is when we started with the Daily, we all collectively made a big decision. We're going to go completely native. So our CMS actually passes a bunch of JSON files to the Daily's app, and it renders all these things natively. So it's using core animation, core graphics, core data, all these very specific Apple components to do all this. Now, there were 2 big reasons for that. One of them is that Apple was actually a launch partner of theirs. In the Steve Jobs biography, there are 3 or 4 pages dedicated to Rupert Murdoch and Steve Jobs working on the Daily together, and how hands-on Steve Jobs was with the look and the feel and kicking designs back and having his design team versus Rupert's and then Rupert's actually won and he was surprised. Really, really fascinating stories, especially because I was there, so I kind of like it. In this biography, it was kind of cool. And the other reason that we went all native was back at the time there was the iPad 1, and HTML5 apps on an iPad 1 really sucked. The performance was terrible. Today, no one's recording this, right? Today, a developer I know actually went and took all that JSON and pulled it into a native HTML5 app in a mobile Safari browser on an iPad and rendered the entire issue of the Daily recently. Did it all in HTML5, not the native app, and the page turning was actually faster than the app does it. And it does all the videos, all the hotspots, all the links, all the text flowing and all this stuff. Pretty much everything except maybe the crossword puzzle and the Sudoku in this thing, and it's pretty sick. It doesn't crash. Like, you can flip like as fast as you can. So it's pretty crazy. So HTML5 performance has actually caught up. But the funny thing is, all the big customers we work with have meetings at Apple, and they come in and they say, hey, I want to do this amazing connected TV thing, this CoView thing, or this new, who knows what it is, right? Some commerce thing. And the big question Apple always asks is, okay, is this going to be a native app, right? Is this going to be native? And they go, well, we don't really have a lot of like Objective-C talent on our team. It's a big pain. So we're thinking maybe a hybrid, HTML5. That way we can do it on Android as well. And Apple's like, just rolling their eyes at these people. Can't even believe you mentioned Android here. And so Apple says, here, I'll tell you what, it should be all native. Here's a list of some really high-end firms that do really great work, right? Go call this one or that one, and they'll whip you up a good native app. And the customer is like, dude, this I don't have the budget for like that company right there or that one. If I did that, I wouldn't be able to actually do all the design and editorial and production stuff for my iPad version of my site or whatever this is. So I can't do that. And Apple, invariably says, could you back up a second? That word you used, we don't use that here. Budget. What does that mean? And so to wrap this up, my point is, we built CrowdFusion around a constant pursuit of innovation so we can get a seat at the table at the future of publishing. And that table is actually made out of a giant iPad. And get used to it. So thanks very much.